Hello everyone, I am Ben with the BTC Sessions, and I'm here wandering near 17th Ave in Calgary, Alberta, Canada. A lot of newcomers to Bitcoin, or people hearing about Bitcoin for the first time, ask the question, why should I trust Bitcoin? I don't know who created it, I don't know how it works, and I already trust my bank, so why bother? So I'm here to talk to you about the top reasons you should trust Bitcoin. Bitcoin is open source. This means that the code and rules governing Bitcoin are open on the internet to be publicly audited. So anybody that takes the time to read it can understand how it works. It also means that the creator of Bitcoin is irrelevant. Knowing who invented your car or your airplane or your TV or your internet is irrelevant, and it doesn't make the technology itself any more or less valuable. The technology holds up on its own. Bitcoin is predictable and transparent. Let me ask you a few questions. Try to answer honestly. How many US dollars currently exist at this very moment? What will the inflation rate of the US dollar be in the year 2020? How many US dollars will exist in the year 2140? How many counterfeit US dollars exist or will ever exist? If you're honest, your answers probably ranged from nobody can be quite sure to that's impossible to know. Now what if I asked the same questions of Bitcoin? Let's see, 16,288,550 Bitcoins. In the year 2020, the inflation rate of Bitcoin will be 1.73%. In the year 2140, there will be 21 million Bitcoins. And there are no counterfeit Bitcoins, nor will there ever be. Due to the open source consensus-based model of Bitcoin, I can know these things. I know Bitcoin's inflation rate, I know how many exist at any one time, I can know how many will ever exist, and I can know that there are no counterfeits out there. Let's contrast this with national currencies, for instance the US dollar. How do you know when more US dollars will be printed and devalue the ones sitting in your pocket? Well, you don't really. I mean, you don't get very much notice. Take for instance the financial crisis. 16 trillion, with a T, trillion dollars were created to bail out the banks. And how do we project things like interest rates? Well, I mean, some analysts have created software which will analyze speeches made by Chairman of the Federal Reserve, Janet Yellen, and it will look at the language that she uses. And based on her language and the words that she uses, it will project how dovish or hawkish she is, and then it will give those words a score. And this can't even fucking finish, oh my god, okay. This score will be used to then project the likelihood that Janet Yellen will decide to raise interest rates. You can't even make this stuff up. If I had sat you down and given you these two systems without labeling them and telling you what they were, which one sounds more trustworthy and predictable to you? Network uptime and resiliency. Since its launch in January 3rd of 2009, Bitcoin has boasted a 99.99% uptime, with no interruptions to the network other than 2 quick bug fixes to make protocol improvements. And it can be argued whether or not the Bitcoin network was truly offline during these upgrades. That means that over the past 8 and a bit years, there's been a few hours of downtime. Meanwhile, Bitcoin itself has never been hacked. Contrast this with the regular bank outages and hacks that dot the headlines, and it's easy to see which is the more resilient network. But why? It has to do with the philosophies of these networks. Banks work within walled gardens. They try to keep everybody out and protect their databases by not exposing them to threats. Whereas Bitcoin is out in the open. It is constantly open to and being attacked every moment of every day. At first this sounds crazy, but you need to think of it in a specific way. Imagine two kids. One kid is kept in his room. The room is sealed, everything is sanitized, and he's never exposed to germs. The other kid sits in the driveway eating mud pies. 10 years into their lives, the bubble boy and the mud pie boy go into a room. They meet a new friend, Billy, and Billy has a cold. He's sick, he's sneezing, he's rubbing snot on everything, and Billy gets his germs everywhere. Which one of these boys do you think is going to be less likely to catch a cold? My bet is on the boy with the mud pies. This is the approach that the Bitcoin network has taken. By being open to attack on a regular basis, it becomes more resilient. It essentially builds up its immune system to these type of attacks. Now there's one important distinction I'd like to make here. Some of you may have heard of some high-profile hacks of Bitcoin exchanges where a lot of people lost their money, most notably Mt. Gox. Now it's important to realize that these were not Bitcoin. These were Bitcoin banks, and Mt. Gox was a poorly managed Bitcoin bank. And when you take a lot of funds and you pool them in one area and then you expose them to attack, and not only that, have poor management over the security of this centralized authority, it's a recipe for disaster. Banks are untrustworthy. You don't need to look far into the headlines to see a lot of scandal surrounding banks all over the world. There were the irresponsible practices that led to the financial crisis of 2008. You can look at the rigging of the LIBOR rates. You can even look to money laundering for Mexican drug cartels. When it comes to a customer basis, you can look to Wells Fargo creating fake accounts for customers and charging them for them. You can even just look to banks straight up stealing your money. All in all, the industry does not ooze trustworthiness. This leads me into the final reason why you should trust Bitcoin. You shouldn't. The current system of trust, counterparty risk, and centralized authority are the reason for a lot of the problems we have today. Bitcoin was built specifically to be openly scrutinized by the public. We need to stop trusting people and corporations because they're fallible, and we need to start putting our trust in science, math, and peer review. So don't trust Bitcoin. Ask questions, demand answers, and only when those questions are answered to your satisfaction, then trust Bitcoin. You guys, as usual, thank you so much for watching. Please don't forget to hit like and subscribe, drop a tip if you're able to, and please share this video, especially with new users or people that just have questions about Bitcoin in general. I think they'll find it helpful. I'll see you guys next time on the BTC Sessions.